What will Linda Moore do for Quincy?
Fix our neighborhoods and our streets.
Grow collaboration.
Fix Quincy's finances.
Grow opportunity.
Fix the dysfunction.
Grow affordable housing.
Grow local business.
Early voting starts March 7th. Vote for Linda Moore to be Quincy's next mayor April 1st. Paid for by the committee to elect Linda Moore for Quincy.
Welcome to Cedar Club, Quincy's favorite local bar. A friendly corner bar with a laid-back atmosphere and affordable drinks. It's the perfect spot for a great time. With entertainment galore, including shuffleboard, golden tea, pool, foosball, and winning gaming machines. Cedar Club's latest edition is the best spot to catch your favorite game. Great drinks, great friends, and great times. Cedar Club, 20th and Cedar in Quincy. Hey everybody, welcome to the Daily Muddy. I'm Ashley Conrad. Joining me today, Heath Richmond with RSVP, and you are the manager of volunteer services at John Wood Community College. Correct. So I'm really interested to see how those two intertwine and hear about your history and learn a little bit more about RSVP. So wherever you want to start, I'm game. Welcome, and I'm glad you're here.
Well, thank you, Ashley.
Yeah.
Well, John Wood actually has been the sponsor of the Retired and Senior Volunteer Program for 48 of its 50 years.
Okay.
RSVP started here in Adams County in the early 1970s, and the United Way was our sponsor. And shortly after John Wood started, they were looking for a way to emphasize the community side of community college. And so they took on this project as a community project and has been doing it ever since.
Cool.
And RSVP is part of the Federal AmeriCorps program, and we work with people 55 and older who want to volunteer, and we connect them with places that need volunteers.
Excellent. So RSVP stands for?
Retired and Senior Volunteer Program. So
Okay.
you don't have to be retired.
Okay.
You just have to be 55.
You have to be 55.
We're a federal program that is allowed to discriminate. Young
Okay.
people are not allowed to participate.
Dang it.
Not till you hit 55.
Okay, so 55. I will consider that young, right? We don't want to. Yeah, we're not gonna step on any toes here. 55 is young, but you don't have to be retired, which is good to know. And then, how do you connect the dots between volunteers and where they're placed, or what does that look like?
Well, we have connections with over 90 different places that people volunteer at.
Okay.
For me personally, I've been in the volunteer service world in Adams County since 1999. I worked for the Boy Scouts for many years, worked for the Community Foundation. So in all three of our counties, Brown, Pike, and Schuyler, I kind of know the volunteer community very well because I've worked in it for so long.
For sure.
But we just have agreements with these places, and they know that if they're looking for volunteers, we're kind of a one-stop shop. They can call us and say, hey, can you connect us with people who need volunteer hours?
Right.
We have 470 registered volunteers that are actively doing service in the community.
Wow.
And in last year, they did 76,000 hours of volunteer service.
Okay, can you give me an example of like some places that they would volunteer?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Meals on Wheels, probably 60% of the drivers in Meals on Wheels are RSVP volunteers.
Okay.
Horizon Soup Kitchen, the Salvation Army, the Croc Center, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. They do stuff for us at John Wood.
Okay.
We do stuff with one of our larger projects is we do the News and Views newsletter at the Senior Center every month.
Oh, okay.
We put that together and saves them time at their office. And that's probably the big thing that volunteers can do for a non-for-profit agency. They can take some of those jobs that pretty much anybody can do.
Sure.
And free up the full-time staff of those agencies to really work and focus on mission-critical stuff.
Right. So not hard work, but definitely meaningful and impactful to these organizations. And you mentioned hours, but some people just want to volunteer. They just want to get out of the house, especially when they're retired. That's a conversation my husband and I were having. I'm so used to working that when I retire, if I ever do, I'm going to need something to keep me busy or I'm going to go crazy. Well, and I'm going to drive him crazy too,
well,
right?
It's one of the reasons why the AmeriCorps Senior focuses on folks 55 and older is twofold. One, it gives them something to do when they are suddenly don't identify as, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, an accountant. Sure. I'm retired. What does that mean?
Right.
It gives them something active to do. It's good for their health because it keeps them mobile and active. But it also keeps us from losing that wealth of knowledge those folks have when they retire and go away. Well, we don't let them fully go away. We keep them pulled in and engaged so that we don't lose all that knowledge and experience.
Which is a great point. I didn't think about that. But they definitely, different generations offer different perspectives. They offer different skills. So it's outstanding that you have such a big crew. Now, Have you noticed the numbers declining, increasing? What do you see?
Well, COVID really decreased our numbers.
Okay.
We went from probably 700 active volunteers down to 390.
Okay.
We're back up to almost 500 now. Part of that is just a lot of the volunteer opportunities went away.
Sure.
Blessing Hospital closed their doors to volunteers. Some people got out of the habit. In 18 months, they filled that time with something else, and so they never came back to volunteering because I'm taking care of grandkids now, or I've decided I like golf, or I don't like golf anymore, but I really like going to Florida.
Sure.
So they kind of filled that time when they lost that opportunities that we lost in 2020.
Right. So then, and I imagine some people, because you hear more and more, some people are working instead of retiring, right?
Absolutely.
They're holding part-time jobs, but you can still volunteer. So if I had someone in mind, let's say my mom, she's busy, but she still has some time that maybe would want to volunteer, maybe part-time. Is that doable? How do you?
Absolutely. Most of my volunteers do 3 to 5 volunteer hours a week somewhere. My most active volunteers, I have 2 volunteers that both did over 2,100 hours of volunteer work last year.
Holy smokes.
Which a full-time employee works 2,040 hours a year. So they're more than full-time volunteers. And the one who gave me the most hours of service, almost 2,300 hours last year, is 91 years old.
Oh my gosh.
She crochets baby blankets for the hospital.
I love that. I've seen this.
And she, every day, she gets up and she crochets, and she knows those babies need those blankets, and it keeps her going and keeps her active, and she's mentally sharp, and she calls us every month and lets us know how many blankets she's done. And we actually have over 15 volunteers that are in their 90s that are actively doing volunteer work every week.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So yeah, you don't have to work that much or volunteer that much. You don't have to have that much quote unquote free time. If people want to get involved but aren't sure of the next steps, what do they?
Well, the easiest way is to call my office.
Okay.
We're at John Wood. It's 217-641-4960. Or the easiest way is probably email, rsvp@jwcc.edu.
All right, love it. Thank you so much, Heath. It's lots of information. If you're interested in volunteering for whatever reason or in a variety of organizations, reach out to Heath and crew, and they'll get you connected with an organization who needs you, and who knows, maybe you need them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Heath. I appreciate it. All right, coming up next, Ash C. and Brett B. and Coffee Talk. Stay tuned.
The Tower, a great place to meet and eat. But did you know the Tower has one of the finest drink selections in our area? Along with its incredible Mexican menu, the Tower specializes in tequilas for every taste. Names like Patron, Cabo Wabo, and Hornitos. And don't forget the margaritas. On Mondays and Tuesdays, stop by and pick up a single topping pizza and get Tower margaritas to go. Enjoy the Tower at home or in our dining room, bar area, or the Tower's signature climate-controlled porch. The Tower Pizza and Mexican in Quincy.
Instant Replay is your local sports bar. With 18 big screen TVs, we have all the sports packages from college games to pro games. We offer daily drink specials, and come check out the Bullpen, our newly renovated beer garden. Instant Replay, 2739 Chestnut in Quincy.
Welcome to the Abbey, a Quincy tradition. With 6 big screens, a new larger kitchen, and now more seating capacity, the Abbey is the place to be before, during, and after the big game. Come enjoy fan favorite appetizers, steaks, burgers, and a variety of daily food and drink specials. Can't join us? Carryout is available too. Now with a convenient drive-up window to better serve you. 1736 Spring in Quincy. Opens at 3 p.m. Tuesday through Sunday. Come join all your friends at the Abbey, a Quincy tradition.
Kelly's has been a fun place to eat and drink in Quincy since 1982. A fun and friendly atmosphere, food with flavor, homemade cinnamon rolls, and famous cheese soup, the best menu in town. Kelly's, 2902 Broadway, Quincy.
Are you looking for the perfect venue for your next special event? Check out Utopia Event Center. Utopia has a large banquet room and an awesome bar area, perfect for anything from birthday parties to formal corporate meetings. It also offers a photo booth, stage for a DJ or a live band, and a fully stocked bar, all for only $300. Check us out at utopiaeventcenter.com or call Barn at 217-430-6559 for more information. Utopia Event Center, 900 North 12th Street in Quincy.
The Liquor Booth is your home for a huge selection of beer, wine, and spirits. The Liquor Booth has 2 locations in Quincy, 3520 Broadway and 1500 North 12th Street. The Liquor Booth, where it's always happy hour.
And welcome back. Now it's time for Coffee Talk with Ash C, Britt B. Thanks to EFB, we spill the tea here on Coffee Talk, and there's always something to talk about.
Yes.
Today, let's start with...
What's in the news?
Yeah, let's start with in the news.
Actually, before we start with what's in the news, what's in my life?
What is going on? What's Britt's news? Okay.
Trying to get to the
Give me the
news
scoop.
today.
Yeah.
I dropped my daughter off to school. I get a message from a random phone number. Hey, Mom, I left my phone in your car. Like, ugh.
It's the end of the world.
To them, yeah.
Yes, I know.
I went about my day. I had some stuff I had to post, and then I thought about it. I'm like, man, it's not in my car because I checked,
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't let that go. In the back of my head, it's like
no. It's anxiety building up.
phone that we're paying on, and I'm like, how does she do this? Well, then Mike suggested the Find My app. Duh. Like, I don't know where I didn't think of that. So I'm driving around the junior high because it's...
Oh, it's pinging there?
It's pinging there, but
Okay.
it's outside. I'm like, oh my gosh, she dropped it. And meanwhile, all these kids are at P, and I just keep circling and circling. I'm like, great, I look like a creep.
Hello.
Yeah. So I pulled over, and I went running to the PE teacher. I'm like, sorry to interrupt, whatever. My kid dropped her phone, explained it, and I'm like, it looks like it's moving with you guys.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, my kid pops out, and I'm like,
She has
you! No, she goes, no, Mom, it's still in your car. I'm like, no, it's not. So who knows? I mean, it's still moving around. But this just brought on my irritation of, kids and phones, and this is another reason why you shouldn't let them have them. But the biggest thing is being responsibility.
Yeah.
And, maybe it's just too big of a responsibility, I think, sometimes for a kid to have. Looking back on it, I probably should have stuck with the SE model or something simple for the purposes that you intend it for.
Sure, like a flip phone.
Yeah, but instead I was trying to be the cool mom, and also the package made it so that it was cheaper this way and whatnot. But it just made me think to myself, responsibilities, it's not just kids, that
I was going to say,
it's
listen.
too much to handle,
I
if
lose
you
mine
will.
all the time.
So then I go and I start, reading the news, posting the news, and asking questions, obviously, all the time about the news, because if I'm supposed to explain it, I have no idea, sometimes what I'm talking about.
Yeah, making sure you understand it. That's a great quality.
But it kind of, clicked together where I'm like, man, responsibility isn't just kids and their phones. It is our local leaders. Right now, we're looking at them to be extremely responsible in a couple of decisions that are upcoming. I think some people might be a little confused about one. I want to talk about the grocery tax for one. And then the other big one being the building that is used for 3 of our local entities, Grediff, Chamber, and the district. That was covered under a letter to the editor.
Yeah.
Make sure you read that on the site. But there's responsibility there where you keep things local. So we got 2 big responsibility things going on. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with what I just saw on Facebook, which is the furniture outsourcing.
Okay.
Right?
So that's the letter to the other one that we're referring to.
So the letter to the editor was, I forget his name, Ken
Sparrow.
Yep, from Area Distributors, right? And he was basically calling out these organizations for outsourcing a furniture purchase to a company out of St. Louis when their mission statements and their visions are
their entire existence.
Yeah, is based on keeping things local, shopping small, supporting our local business scene, right? So it's kind of hard. The optics are terrible.
Yeah.
Very, very, very bad on their part.
Again, so those 3 entities are combining into one building. I believe it's the old WGM building. It's downtown here. And so they're revamping that, remodeling it, and one of the things that they were getting ready to do was put in new furniture there. And yeah, that's the outsource.
But why? Yeah, so I I guess they have a lot more money than I do. When I'm shopping for furniture, I'm not like outsourcing specific brands. I'm going to these local places and I'm sitting my happy butt in these to see if they're comfortable.
Yeah.
So I guess I need to know what their process is. Like, what are they? They're like, oh, I like this brand, so let's go see who has this brand. Well, I don't know if that's even
I would hope it was
on my
not
radar.
that, and it was more of, hey, let's save money and make a deal type thing, like, or like have a deal, not make a deal. But even so, the mission statement is you pay a little more to support locals. So,
and I know I sound, a little hypocritical because when I'm shopping for a car, I did buy my car out of town, but there was more wiggle room, I think, as far as negotiation went, which may not apply to every.
But I don't think that's your mission statement as a person.
I try to do it as much as I can. So I don't want people like, oh, well, she's.
I don't think you receive money yourself for
my mission of shopping and
local,
staying local. Yeah. So okay, well, there's
responsibility,
the differentiator.
Responsibility.
There is a responsibility there to practice what you preach. And if you don't, I guess you have to be ready for some backlash, which is what the letter to the editor. I think it was very well written and not. It wasn't as bashing as it could have been.
Yeah, I don't think anybody said any names or pinpointed like which entity it was that decided this. But I mean, those details might come out. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Like you said, the optics aren't great. I think it would be in the best benefit for somebody from one of those entities to speak up and say, hey.
Some kind of explanation would be nice. It's definitely not something that, it's not our biggest concern here in Quincy, but it is something that maybe an apology and learn, once you know better, you do better. Yeah.
A bigger concern, though, would be the second story, the grocery tax. And I say bigger because it's a lot of money on the table.
Yeah. A lot of money for the city, not a lot of money out of our pockets, I don't think. So when this grocery tax was implemented in 1981, I don't know, I was,
just a babe.
I was just a wee babe. So I don't know how it was perceived by the general public, but I know that it was controlled by the state, right? So we would pay taxes on groceries, the state would collect the money and then disperse it back to cities, right? And then we would spend that.
So the state was the bank on this tax.
Right. Now then during COVID, Pritzker, our hero, stopped this grocery tax for barely a year, we'll say. Stopped it to try and help. I don't know that it really helped. I don't even know that I noticed.
It might have inhibited.
It kind of maybe hurt our local community. But so now it's being passed from the state level to city leadership to decide if we want to keep the tax because it is right now still in effect. It was reinstated and now it's in effect. So the vote on the table, or actually the conversation to be had is, do we want to vote on talking about this grocery tax, right? Do we want to vote on the grocery tax?
Yes.
Okay. Is that right?
Well,
am I saying that right?
Last night they voted on, talking about it.
Yeah.
Because at first they made a motion. In David's story, it said both Jack Hochschlag and Ben Uzelac, both from the 7th Ward, decided to motion to vote.
Yeah.
And then
versus table it, right?
Versus, I guess, discussing it, because then after they said we want to vote, then the mayor says, is there any discussion? And of course, there was with this one.
Yeah.
David said, like, some of the times quite often there's not.
Yeah.
But this one did have a lot of discussion, and I think some of it is confusion. People don't understand that this isn't a new tax. They're also questioning, we have the opportunity to possibly withhold this tax and give our constituents less taxes, but maybe not with the understanding that it will come out in the long run. I think what Sherry Ray is trying to explain is your property taxes are going to go up if we don't take from what we already had.
Right.
Like, this is something that we were already relying on. If we decide to not do it now, then something else is going to have to give in the long run.
Yeah, because what's forecasted, and there could be a lot of wiggle room here based on how things are taxed at, the Walmarts and the Targets. It's forecasted that 1% to bring in $1.2 million of revenue for our city, right? And that's, I don't think it's including Target because that came in during the break of the grocery tax. So it could even be higher than that.
Yeah.
Also, and this is just my hot take, since the state isn't controlling it, there's going to be less red tape, less
It all goes to you.
So it's all coming here, and we know that. So anything we collect here stays here.
Yeah.
And that includes tourism. People who come to Quincy who shop, say they shop at Target, but they're from Carthage or Hannibal or wherever. We get those dollars that stay here as well. I think, I'm not pro-tax. We all know that.
Yeah.
But I think this is one I can get behind. The 1% does not affect my pocketbook to a point where, I mean, I never noticed that it was gone. I didn't notice that they reinstated it. I think it would be a different conversation if I were like, oh, it's back. Oh, dang it. Now, you know, it just doesn't seem to really
I see both sides. Back to the responsibility thing, I do think that once you give people more money, then there's more money to spend. And obviously this money was already there. We relied on it before. But to the public eye, when you're asking, can we keep this tax in place? Well, you've asked for this, the food and beverage tax a couple of years ago. You've asked for this tax. You've asked for this tax. So it is harder for the public to say, yeah, because you've already asked for so much that maybe now
you're dipping into the Kool-Aid a little bit.
Maybe now you don't get your iPhone 16 anymore.
Right.
You know, you've already asked too much.
Right.
So I don't know. I see both sides of it. I understand the importance of keeping this tax, and I do think, I agree with you.
Yeah.
The implications to removing it would be far more devastating than, making the public happy in the illusion that they are saving money.
Not getting taxed.
But at the same time, you got to understand where people are coming from with you ask, you keep asking, and you're not responsible with what you had.
Right.
Where are we going to,
I love
this
that
is where
tie-in.
we're going to probably...
Yeah, you keep asking, but then you keep losing it.
Yeah,
So
stop losing your phone,
I'm
Mela.
not getting you another phone. That's just the thing. And I love that tie-in.
Yeah.
That's a really good,
Look,
yeah.
I was really,
I love it.
I was really boiling today. Mostly
Listen,
about the phone, not about so much this.
Okay, so.
Because this is same old news.
So the cell phone thing, I got to give Mela a little grace because we do expect so much out of kids anymore, and I'm talking
it is bad
daily activity.
She's going to school with a book bag on and then a book bag in front because she has after school activities, carrying a water bottle, carrying another thing. So
and I can't even keep track of what's in my 4 pockets, let alone all of these backpack pockets and where things are going
all the time.
So we got to give a little grace.
Yes.
I think it kind of applies also with the city, but
Absolutely.
let's learn how to budget and control our wants versus needs. And we as the community can also take a step back and be like, you know what, if this is our small chance that we can be like, hey, 1% isn't going to hurt. Let's help the city so that we can get more things that we want, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a good opportunity. But yeah, I see where the no taxation.
Maybe the 1% will be so successful that we can cut back things like the food and beverage.
Right.
Or
See, that would be nice. And that's what I mean.
Other potential taxes
I would
coming
be
in.
more apt to say yes if it were a 2% tax and get rid of the food and beverage tax.
Yeah.
I really would. Because then you're capturing more. And it's not just me going out to support my local watering hole and they're getting taxed and we're getting taxed.
Yes.
You know what I mean? This is hitting kind of the corporation level.
Yeah.
So I lean more towards the grocery tax. And then David brought up a good point that if we don't do it today, can we do it in 6 months? But when you wait 6 months because there's a 6-month waiting period for you to bring up a new tax clause or whatever the hell you call it. But if you wait 6 months, then you have to wait probably another 3 months or so to even start realizing any of those dollars. So if we're going to say okay to the tax, let's just do it now and start.
Yeah. Also,
start
waiting is going to hinder the budget that we already approved.
Yeah. Oh yeah. See. Well, you got all the tea. Thank you so much for bringing it. Also, what about this weather?
Loving it.
Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to make the closet change.
I know. But before we do that, we had to bring out our green because St. Patty's Day is coming up.
Yeah.
Remember
ready. To wear your green on Club Muddy.
Yes, I will.
Okay.
And I'm bringing all the shenanigans.
And the guests.
Yes. Perfect. All right. Well, I think that does it for today's
Coffee Talk.
We'll catch you next time.
Cheers.